Well, if it's a Friday morning, it is time for another About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series episode. Hello, I'm Steve Casillo, and you are you. And appreciate you being here today. You're either watching live on Facebook, you're watching the video on YouTube or LinkedIn, you're listening to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. In any event, whatever that may be, I appreciate you being here today. And today's topic, we always bring in our guru of building wealth. That'd be Phillip Washington Jr. Say hello to the audience.
How's it going, audience?
Yeah. and Phillip records and broadcasts his podcast earlier on Friday mornings. I have the pleasure of engineering that podcast, and then we take that topic and we talk about it here as one of these 10-minute nuggets of consumer advice series. And Phillip, I got to tell you that and by the way, Phillip is right over here on my left shoulder. We could talk for an hour about this subject and not even scratch the surface. So 10 minutes, we got to go like this and I'm really excited about monetizing your podcast. It's something that I do. It's something that you do, and that's today's 10-minute nugget. Is really in a nutshell is art versus business.
Absolutely.
And explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, art versus business. So you look at the talent space, whether it be a actor, whether it be a musician. I mean, we can even look at WWE professionals, fighters. Typically in those settings, you hear a lot of people in that arena who are well known, who are very talented, that don't get paid what they're worth, right? That's changing today, but like in the past, a lot of them were not paid nearly what they were worth, and the people behind the scenes that nobody know about made all the money. And that's the difference between like the art and the business. And in order to monetize a podcast, you got to understand the business aspect of it, because the art, all of us have art in us. It just needs to be brought out. But the business part is what makes the money.
Okay, now wait a second, because all right, so I'm an artist, I'm a musician. I could be the greatest musician in the world, but if nobody knows about me and and I don't understand how to make a CD. I don't know how. Are they still making CDs?
Actually, they brought back the, as you know, me and Kelly have a
record player?
A record player. But now they have tape players coming out, so CDs are next.
Okay. And I don't know how to distribute. And a lot of that is along the same vein of you could be the greatest communicator, podcaster, but if you don't understand distribution, that's the key. And distribution is not just, okay, I'm going to put it on Apple and Spotify and Google and that is distributing. Well, no, that's placing it out in the platform that allows people to access it. But distributing also involves the advertising of the podcast.
It's the hand-to-hand combat. It's the relationships. It's the behind-the-scenes, like happy hours at the bar, meeting. We're compiling a list currently, my assistant, of all the speaking engagements I've had, all the podcasts I've been on, and we're like 20 plus, right? And on that list are chambers of commerce like the Texas CPA Society, it's Raytheon, it's Samsung, it's some cool blogs, right? Some local magazines, like some, really good places. And, my podcast numbers are respectable, right? But a lot of these opportunities came where the numbers were even less respectable, right? And they're not nearly what some people might perceive them to be, based on the exposure that I've had for my business and the money I've made to grow it and all those kind of things. But that's because like it's not about the numbers. It's not about like the number. Like you can have 1 million. I use the example of social media. I was talking to somebody about podcasting, and I said, listen, like, I don't really worry about numbers, because if I was worried about numbers, I'm a decent looking dude that's in great shape. I would just take my shirt off on Instagram all day, right? And I can get my number, I can get my numbers up, but that's not gonna like do anything for the KPI or what I'm trying to do, which I'm trying to attract a certain type of person who wants to hear a certain type of information so that they can make a change in their life that I can provide them that service. And so you can build a business on 1,000, true fans,
Right.
1,000 people that have the mindset that you're looking for. That's a great client, and they can share it around. Right? I mean, I can have one person share my podcast with somebody who has $100 million and
Boom. You're done.
and really likes me,
Yep.
and then bam, like lots of money.
Question though. What do you say to the person who says, "Oh, there are so many podcasts out there. I'm too late."
Yeah, so we have to go to like the perspective of the industrial age, which started after the printing press was invented, is still unfolding, right? I mean, we're at relative maturity for America, but there's lots of places around the world that are not up to speed, and that's been a 200-300 year process, right? What's simultaneously happening as we finish out the industrial age is we are in the internet age, right? And that's 20 years in.
Right.
I mean, like, it hasn't even started. Like, it's not even like it's an infant still drinking, breast milk or baby milk. It's brand new.
As you said on your podcast, you just brought the baby home and you're looking for the user's manual.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, how does this thing work? Like,
Right.
there are no rules in podcasting or in internet money, internet content distribution. Like, there are no rules. Like, the rules are being made up every day on how you make money in podcasting, how you distribute the podcast. And that's the cool part, because there are no kings, lords, queens, or gatekeepers. Like, it's whatever you can imagine, you can create.
So as you were voicing your podcast, Wealth Building Made Simple, you got me doing some research, and I hopped on Google real quick. And so in comparison, in this digital age, as of March 2022, there are 63 million podcasts out there. And you're thinking, oh, I'm a small fish in a big pond. In comparison, there are 600 million blogs out there. 600 million versus 63 million. So that's 10 times more. And there are 800 million YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So podcasting is still in its infancy. So how to monetize it, again, learning the business end of it versus the artistic end of it.
Absolutely. And the business end, believe it or not, is no different than how it is in the real world, right? As within, so without, meaning like in the real world, it's about like art is what you're saying or doing bringing value, right? That's easy to check the box, because if you've made money in the non-digital world and provided value, okay, now you're going to the digital world and you're saying, okay, now how do I apply this here, right? Well, it's relationships, right? It's the right people, not the number of people. Yep. It's the right people. It's being disciplined in that execution. It's building all kinds of, it's networking with other podcasters. It's paying to be on other podcasts. It's leveraging inexpensive advertising, right? Which may be digital advertising, to get the word out for your podcast. I mean, Steve, you don't talk about this. It's even as simple as, if you just forget about the listeners. Let's say you are a realtor and you want to sell more homes. If all you do is build a podcast where you interview local homeowners, business owners on your podcast, you do 50 or 100 episodes a year, and all those people are now in your database that are receiving your podcast, that are listening to your information, that is looking at all the people that you know, guess who becomes the branded, well-known realtor in that specific area?
Exactly.
You.
Right.
You. Like, you're going to accidentally sell a bunch of homes, like, just from the people that you interviewed or the people that they passed on episode to because they were excited about being on the, on the podcast. Because, like, that's the difference. All other realtors are just saying, look at me, I sold a home. Oh, I'm so great. Oh, and I'm not.
Hey, can I give the listeners a little tip?
Go ahead.
Having a podcast opens doors.
Facts.
I call up people almost daily, and I ask people, hey, I have a podcast. I would like to interview you. Would you like to come on my podcast? I've never been told no. I've interviewed CEOs. I've interviewed the superintendent of schools. I've interviewed the city manager. I've interviewed. Now, we're talking about Mansfield, so we're talking a very small 36 square miles. Increase that into the United States if that's what you're interested in doing. And it opens doors. I have a podcast. Will you come on? I've never been told no. And it's awesome.
It's cool.
If I went to the city manager as just Steve Casillo, the citizen of Mansfield, and can I have 30 minutes of your time? It's like, yeah, let me put you on the calendar for 6 months from now. But no, try it. Start a podcast. But all right, that's the art side of it, starting the podcast, and then learn the business side or hire the business side.
Hire the business side, which was the consulting business, coaching service that I started, because I was giving away a lot of stuff for free to people, and like, it's cool. They would hear what I was saying, but they would need like some extra hand holding to walk them through each part of the process. And I was like, I don't really have that time. And I was like, well, why don't I just charge them for it?
Yeah.
Like, why don't I just charge them for the time?
Well, on your podcast, you mentioned, and we'll use this as an example, and then wrap this up. You mentioned the example of Def Jam Music and how they took the artists and.
Yeah. So Def Jam, early hip hop, and Def Jam understood there's a new way to distribute music, right? There's lots of artists who were talented, but there were these new things that the kids were listening to, new people, new influence that the kids were listening to, called disc jockeys and video jockeys on cable TV and radio. It's probably around the time when like Sirius and all that kind of stuff became big too. And so they were like, oh, okay, we got relationships with VJs and DJs, and they can put out the music of our artists. So hey, artists, like, we have the relationships, and we have the know-how. You could do it on your own and figure it out, or you can focus on your art. Let us provide that service, and we both make money, right? And that's what a lot of artists like did to get big and make money and have a harmonious relationship between the two.
There he is, podcasting guru, Phillip Washington Jr. of Wealth Building Made Simple. If people had questions about starting a podcast, consulting, and learning the business end of the podcast, how can they reach out to you?
The best way, let's stick with the podcasting email, is Phillip@phillipwashingtonjr.com. That's Phillip with 2 L's. Phillip@phillipwashingtonjr.com. It's the best way to reach me about podcasting.
By the way, great shirt.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. My wife actually picked this out. It was shared in the Facebook group she's part of, and I went to Old Navy and bought it.
It's an awesome looking shirt. We do this every Friday. We have 10-minute nuggets. We actually went 14 minutes today. Appreciate you staying out through the entire 14 minutes. Let's do it again next week.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.